Right now, as you read this, something strange is happening inside your skull. A voice is speaking. Not out loud. Not to anyone else, just to you, about you. Constantly. It is commenting on what you are reading. It is already forming an opinion. It might be telling you this is interesting, or that you are tired and should do something else instead. You have been listening to this voice your entire life. It knows everything about you. It has rehearsed your arguments before you had them, replayed your embarrassing moments at 3 in the morning, and told you what you should have said in a conversation that ended 6 years ago. Most people never stop to ask what this voice actually is. Psychologists call it inner speech, the silent conversation you have with yourself that runs almost continuously through your waking hours. Some studies estimate that people spend roughly a quarter of their waking hours engaged in it. But here is what makes it genuinely strange. That voice is not just commentary. It is doing something your brain needs so badly that it evolved an entirely separate system to run it. To understand what that system is, you have to go back to when you were approximately 2 years old. Children learning to speak narrate everything out loud. They pick up a block and say block. They put it down and say down. They walk across the room, describing every step to no one in particular. Developmental psychologist Lev Vygotsky studied this behavior in the 1920s. He called it private speech, and he argued it was not random. It was the child using language as a tool for thinking. The narration was not the child describing what they were doing. The narration was the child figuring out what to do. As children get older, the private speech does not disappear. It goes underground. The volume drops, and then, around age 7 or 8, it becomes entirely silent. The voice moves inside. What you experience as your inner voice today is the adult version of what that 2-year-old was doing out loud with their blocks. You are still doing the same thing. You just stopped making noise about it. Neuroscientist Charles Fernyhough at Durham University has spent much of his career studying inner speech. Brain imaging research shows that when you talk to yourself silently, your brain activates many of the same regions as actual spoken language. You are not just thinking. You are speaking and listening at the same time to yourself, using the same neural machinery you use to communicate with other people. Some researchers have argued that inner speech is essentially a simulation of dialogue. When you talk to yourself, you take one position, then anticipate a counterargument, then respond to that counterargument, then evaluate the whole exchange from the outside. Think about the last time you rehearsed a difficult conversation before having it. You probably played both roles. You were having a dialogue with a simulated version of another person inside your own head, using your own voice. The inner voice is a social instrument being used privately, and this might explain something uncomfortable. The same system that allows you to plan and rehearse also allows you to replay failures and construct narratives about your own inadequacy. The inner critic uses exactly the same machinery as the inner planner. Research by psychologist Ethan Kross at the University of Michigan found that how you address yourself in inner speech makes a measurable difference. People who talk to themselves using their own name or the word you rather than I show significantly better emotional regulation under stress. Instead of thinking I am so anxious about this, thinking you have handled hard things before actually changes how your brain processes the situation. The social system works better when it thinks it has someone to talk to. Not everyone experiences inner speech the same way. Some people have a loud, constant verbal inner voice. Others experience something much quieter and more visual. And there are people who report having almost no inner voice at all. This condition was largely unknown to researchers until recently because most people assume their experience is universal. The discovery that some people think almost entirely without verbal inner narration has forced researchers to completely reconsider what inner speech is for. The most honest answer is that the inner voice is both more and less you than it feels. It is a genuine cognitive tool your brain uses to plan, regulate, and narrate. But it is not the whole of you, and it is not always telling the truth. That voice learned to speak from other voices. It borrowed its structure from language, which is a social technology. It evaluates you the way you imagine others evaluating you. The voice in your head is you talking to yourself, the way you learned to talk to others. And it has been doing that since you were a small child, narrating your blocks in the corner of a room, not yet knowing that one day the narration would go quiet and move inside, where it would stay for the rest of your life. Talking. Always talking, just not out loud anymore. Some researchers believe the inner voice is the closest thing we have to a self, the continuous narrator that ties your experiences together into something that feels like a single coherent life. Without it, who would be watching? Who would be keeping score? But that might be the most misleading thing about it. The voice feels like the observer, but it is also the thing being observed. It is the judge and the defendant at the same time. It built the courtroom, and it also stands in the dock. Descartes said, I think therefore I am. He might have been more accurate if he had said, I talk to myself, therefore I think I am. The voice is not proof of you. It is a process running inside you. One of the most remarkable processes evolution has ever produced, but still just a process. And the next time it tells you something unkind about yourself at 3 in the morning, it might help to remember that it is not the truth. It is just the voice, and the voice has been wrong before.